They never tell you what it costs, not in dollars, not in interest rates or capital gains or quarterly losses. They never tell you what it actually costs, the thing underneath the money, the soft tissue of you that gets consumed quietly, incrementally, like a slow bleed you don't notice until you're already hollow. Everyone shows you the arrival, the car, the watch, the penthouse with the floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking a city that suddenly looks like it belongs to you. Nobody shows you what you had to give up to stand at that window. Nobody shows you what's looking back at you in that glass. This is not a story about wealth. This is a story about a disappearing act. And you are the one who vanishes. Let's begin. Level 1. The Illusion, $100,000. You feel it the moment the number clears your bank account. A warmth, a loosening in your chest, like a fist you didn't know was clenched, has finally opened. You exhale for what feels like the first time in years. You have arrived, except you haven't. You have simply bought a better-looking cage. You lease the BMW. Not because you need it. You need transportation, and transportation costs $12,000, not $60,000. You lease it because of the specific expression on the face of the colleague who parks next to you. You lease it because of the version of yourself you see reflected in the showroom window before you sign. You are not buying a car. You are buying a story about who you are. And that story, you will discover, has an astronomically expensive subscription fee. The apartment follows, then the wardrobe, then the dinners at restaurants where the menu has no prices, because the kind of people who eat here are not supposed to think about prices. You are not those people yet, but you are performing them, and performance requires an audience, and audiences require maintenance. At 3 in the morning, you lie in your expensive sheets and you do the math. You do it involuntarily, the way your tongue finds a sore tooth. If the job disappears, if the contract ends, if the company restructures, if your manager decides he doesn't like your face anymore, the car goes first, then the apartment, then the story. This is the first thing wealth takes from you. Your sleep, not your sleep as a luxury. Your sleep as a biological right. You lie there with your eyes open and you understand, for the first time with genuine bodily terror, that you are not financially free. You are financially leveraged. There is a difference, and the difference lives in your nervous system now, permanent as scar tissue. You thought $100,000 was the beginning of freedom. It was the beginning of fear, a more expensive, more elaborately decorated fear, but fear nonetheless. The shackles are leather now. They are still shackles. Level 2. The Alienation. $500. 000. Tati rakak ahak anoga. It starts with a look. You can't quite name it at first. It's there at the birthday dinner when you pay the bill without making a production of it. A flicker behind the eyes of the friend across the table. Something that is not quite gratitude and not quite resentment, and is in fact both of those things fused into something new and deeply uncomfortable. You file it away. You tell yourself you imagined it. You didn't imagine it. The calls start, not often at first. A cousin needs help with the down payment. An old college friend has a business idea he just needs the seed capital for. It's practically guaranteed. You'd be stupid not to. And there it is. That word. Stupid. Wrapped in friendliness. Delivered with a smile. But unmistakably, a lever. They are trying to move you. They have looked at your life and calculated its mechanical properties. And they are applying pressure to the correct point. You say no. You have to say no, because you understand the leverage now, because you've learned the cost of 100 small yeses. But when you say no, something shifts. The calls become less frequent. The warmth in the voice changes texture. You are being punished for a boundary, and the punishment is the slow withdrawal of people who claim to love you unconditionally but apparently had conditions all along. You begin to filter. You can't help it. It's a survival reflex. You start reading subtext in every conversation, every invitation, every unexpectedly warm message from someone you haven't heard from in 3 years. You hold interactions up to the light and look for the wire, the angle, the ask buried inside the affection. The question arrives one night like a knife through a window you thought was locked. Are they talking to you or to what you have? And the horrifying thing, the thing that will quietly restructure your entire psychology, is that you cannot answer it. You genuinely cannot tell. You run back through years of friendship, looking for evidence, and the evidence is ambiguous, and the ambiguity is unbearable. This is what $500,000 takes from you. Not your friends, necessarily. Maybe not even your friendships. Not yet. It takes something quieter and more essential. It takes your ability to be known, because you can no longer fully trust the knowing. You are beginning to understand that money doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes the way other people see you. And once you understand that, you can never stop seeing it. Your empathy is not dead yet, but it has begun to calcify. It is developing a hard outer layer, a shell that will, in time, be indistinguishable from coldness. Level 3 of 3. The isolation. $1 million to $5 million. You built the wall yourself. That is the part they never mention. It is not built by enemies or circumstance. You choose the gated community. You choose the neighborhood where every house sits behind a hedge tall enough to erase the street. You choose the school where the other parents have the same net worth within a comfortable margin, where your child will not come home asking why your house is bigger than their friends. You make 100 small, reasonable, individually defensible decisions that together construct a fortress. And you stand inside it and call it peace. The real world becomes a place you visit in a controlled way. You drive through it in a car with tinted windows. You observe it from a restaurant table where the prices ensure a certain homogeneity of clientele. You watch it on your phone, the protests, the GoFundMe campaigns for medical bills, the comment sections swollen with exhaustion and rage. And something strange begins to happen. The distance is so consistent, so total that you stop feeling it as distance. It simply becomes the nature of the world, the way things are, and the people in it begin to look from behind your glass, not like people in circumstances you escaped, but like people who made different choices. Worse choices, lazier choices. This is the lie that comfort tells you. And you believe it because believing it is so much more convenient than the alternative. The alternative would require you to feel something. Your nightmares change at this level. Death no longer visits them. What haunts you now is abstraction, inflation eroding your principal, a market correction wiping out a third of your portfolio overnight, a tax policy written by politicians who have decided that people like you are the villain in an election year story. You lie awake protecting a number, guarding a figure on a screen as though it is a living thing that requires your vigilance to survive. You are a millionaire. You are anxious every waking hour. Hold both of those facts in your mind at once and feel how they refuse to fit together, how they create a cognitive pressure that never fully releases. The people you used to know would laugh if they could see you. The people you know now would simply nod. Because they understand, they are protecting their number too. The walls are finished. You are safe inside them. And the thing you are safe from, if you are honest, truly, privately, 3 a.m. honest, is not crime or chaos. It is the reminder that the life you left behind was real. Level 4. The paranoia. $10 million. $50 million. You hire a man whose entire professional purpose is to stand between you and other people. You tell yourself it's practical, sensible, a precaution. A man in your position attracts attention, and not all attention is benign. This is true. It is also the beginning of something that will not stop here. You start thinking in threat assessments. Every person who enters your life now passes through a filter. Not a conscious one, not a checklist, but a deep, pre-linguistic suspicion that has been cultivating in you for years and has finally become your default mode. You meet someone. You like them. And then, almost immediately, you begin the forensic work. Who introduced them? What they do for a living? What they could want? What they could take? You make a woman you've known for 3 weeks sign a document before you sleep with her. Not because you are a monster. That is important to understand. But because you have been inside enough rooms where people who smiled at you were simultaneously planning how to use what they knew. The document is not cruelty, it is architecture. You are building a structure in which you cannot be surprised, in which surprise, that most human of experiences, has been surgically removed. Your family is not exempt. You watch your siblings at Christmas dinner, and you perform warmth, and you receive warmth, and somewhere underneath the performance, you are doing the arithmetic, the estate planning, the probabilities, the question of whether the love in this room is load-bearing or decorative. You hate yourself for thinking it. You think it anyway, because the paranoid mind does not take holidays, it does not respond to occasion. It runs continuously in the background like a process you cannot close. You are surrounded by staff. There is someone who manages your house, someone who manages your calendar, someone who manages your physical safety, someone who manages the story the public gets to see. They are professional, competent, and entirely unknowable to you, because to know them would be to expose yourself, and exposure, you have learned, is a form of vulnerability, and vulnerability is a form of target. You sit in the center of all this infrastructure, all this human machinery arranged around your existence, and the silence at the center of it, the profound cellular loneliness, is the loudest thing you have ever heard. You have everything. You trust no one. And the transaction is one you made so gradually, across so many seemingly rational individual steps, that you cannot point to the moment you made it. That is what makes it so perfect and so permanent. Level 5. The God Complex, $100 million. $500 million. The laws still technically apply to you. You know this the way you know that clouds are made of water vapor. True in principle, irrelevant in practice. The legal system you have discovered is not a binary structure of permitted and prohibited. It is a spectrum, and your position on that spectrum is determined almost entirely by the quality of your representation. You have the best representation that exists. Therefore, you are, for all practical purposes, elsewhere, above the thing that governs other people. This changes you in ways you will not fully perceive, because the changes happen in the deepest grammatical structure of how you think. You stop conjugating the future in terms of what is allowed. You conjugate it in terms of what is possible, and those two things have almost entirely diverged. You walk into a room and the room rearranges itself around you. People who were mid-sentence stop. Postures change. The social physics shift. And you have inhabited this gravitational field for so long that you have forgotten it is not natural. You have begun to believe that the world bends toward you because the world recognizes something real, something essential. You have confused power for significance. You look at ordinary people, on the street, in the news, in the abstract sense of the masses your decisions affect. and you do not see them as people in the way you once did. They have become, in your interior vocabulary, a kind of background process. Variables, demographic segments, units of labor, or units of consumption, or units of resistance to be managed through the appropriate legal and communications mechanisms. This is not something you would say aloud. It is something you simply feel, the way you feel that the chair supports your weight, not as a belief, but as a given. When someone obstructs you, you do not feel anger. Anger is too human, too embodied, too immediate. What you feel is something more like administrative irritation. A problem has appeared that needs to be processed. You make a call. You do not follow up, because following up would require emotional investment, and you have no emotional investment in the outcome beyond its instrumental value. You simply move on, already thinking about the next thing, while somewhere, a team of lawyers systematically dismantles someone's professional existence. You do not think about what that costs them. You have not thought about what things cost other people in a very long time. Your empathy is not dormant. It is not wounded or suppressed. It is gone. Fully, completely, without drama or fanfare. Gone. Replaced by a highly sophisticated model of human behavior that allows you to predict and manipulate people with impressive accuracy while feeling nothing about them whatsoever. You are very effective. You are very successful. You are also, in a way that matters more than any of your metrics, no longer entirely a person. You are a function. You are the concentrated will of capital, given a face and a name and a backstory. And functions do not suffer. Functions do not grieve. Functions simply execute. Level 6. The absolute emptiness. $1 billion to $10 billion. You can have anything. Read that again. Not as a boast, as a diagnosis. You can have anything on this planet. Any object, any experience, any person whose time can be purchased, any place whose access can be bought, any sensation that money can manufacture or facilitate or summon. You have achieved a state that every human evolutionary instinct was calibrated to pursue. The complete elimination of material want. And it has broken you in a way that nothing else could. The food has no taste. Not metaphorically. The neurological mechanism that converts eating into pleasure has been worn smooth by years of the finest possible inputs. The restaurants with decades-long waiting lists, the wines that cost more than most people's monthly income, the private chef constructing 12-course architectures of flavor in your kitchen. None of it lands. You eat because your body requires fuel. The ritual of pleasure has become just ritual. The cars are toys. You understand this now with a clarity that is almost tender. They are very expensive, very beautiful toys. The very first time you sat in a vehicle that could do 200 miles per hour and felt the machine pin you to your seat, that was real. You were present for that. But the receptors that registered it as extraordinary have been spent. You have consumed them. They do not regenerate. You buy a painting for $40 million and you stand in front of it and you wait for it to mean something. You have read what it means. You know the provenance, the historical context, the critical framework. You understand why this object commands this number and occupies this place in the culture. You stand in front of it and you feel a faint, intellectual appreciation, distant as a star, and nothing else. The boredom is the most accurate word, but it is also the most inadequate one, because what you are experiencing is not the boredom of a person with nothing to do. It is the boredom of a person for whom the entire apparatus of human wanting has become non-functional. The desire engine has ceased. You are standing in front of the totality of human experience, and none of it is receiving you anymore. So you find other levers. You begin to move through geopolitics the way a restless person rearranges furniture. You fund the media outlet, not for profit, profit is beside the point, but to feel the satisfaction of watching a narrative shift in real time, to feel the lever move under your hand and the world move in response. You play at the edges of elections, not for ideology exactly, but for the sensation of agency, the feeling of being the cause of visible effects, because smaller causes no longer produce sensations large enough to register. You are not doing this for power. You already have power. You are doing this because you are in agony, and the agony has no name, and the only treatment that produces any measurable relief is the manipulation of systems large enough that even your burned-out receptors can dimly feel the vibration. You are the richest person in any room you have ever entered. You are also among the most suffering. And the most terrifying thing about this is not the suffering itself. It is that no one who looks at your life from the outside believes that the suffering is possible. The story the world tells about your situation is incompatible with pain, and so you carry it alone, in a silence so complete it has become indistinguishable from the architecture around you. Level 7, The Golden Prisoner, $50 billion plus. You are at the top of the mountain. Take a moment with that. Feel the weight of what that sentence means. Every human civilization that has ever existed has had, at its apex, a figure who commanded more resources than any other living person. Pharaohs, emperors, merchant kings. And now you. You are the current holder of the oldest and most coveted title in the history of the species. Look at what you've built with it. The bunker in Hawaii sits beneath the earth like a confession, reinforced concrete and filtered air, and years of food and water, and a security detail that has been screened at the kind of psychological depth that most people are not subjected to, even in national intelligence services. You tell the world it is prudence. An investment in continuity, the rational hedge of a man who thinks in long-time horizons. You know what it actually is. It is terror. You are terrified of the world. Not in the vague, ambient way of someone who watches too much news. In the specific, concrete way of someone who has spent decades operating the levers and has a very precise understanding of how many of them are pointed at systems that are closer to failure than anyone in public will admit. You know things about climate trajectories and resource scarcity and geopolitical fault lines that you have paid very serious people very serious money to tell you accurately, without the diplomatic softening that such assessments receive when they enter public discourse. And you have helped build some of what you are now hiding from. Not out of malice. Out of the same rational, instrumental logic that has governed every decision of your adult life. The extraction that funded your ascent, the political influence that protected your margins, the regulatory frameworks you softened, and the labor protections you dismantled, and the attention economy you fed, and the carbon you emitted in the service of the number on the screen. You made those decisions with clear eyes and correct math. You would make them again. And yet you are underground, breathing filtered air, because somewhere in the part of you that has not been fully replaced by the function, you understand the bill is coming. The rockets point upward. Mars is 8 months away and getting closer. You fund the program publicly in the language of curiosity and destiny, and the multiplanetary imperative of the species. In the private language of your own skull, at 3 in the morning on the reinforced concrete floor of your consequence, you know what it is. It is an exit. It is the final expression of a psychology that has been moving in this direction since the first gate closed behind you, since the first wall went up, since you first looked at another person and saw a variable instead of a face. You are the most powerful human alive, and you are running. You have more freedom than any person who has ever breathed, and you are a prisoner. The prison is not the bunker, though you will spend meaningful portions of the years you have left inside it. The prison is the specific shape that your mind has been carved into by the long accumulation of wealth and the long erosion of everything else. The solitary cell is the place inside you where another person's reality used to reach you and no longer can. That cell was not built by enemies. It was not the product of bad luck or circumstance or someone else's malice. You built it, dollar by dollar, decision by decision, wall by wall. You built it so carefully, you built it so well, and it will never for the rest of your life be possible to leave it. This is where the story ends. Not with a crash, not with a scandal, not with the dramatic unraveling that the audience always secretly hopes for, because at least that would be legible. At least that would make sense as narrative. It ends with a man in a room, a very well-appointed room. A secure room. A room that represents the absolute pinnacle of human material achievement. And in that room, the man is alone with himself, with the version of himself that was built by the accumulation, with the thing that the money made when it finished making him. And the question that hangs in that room, unanswerable and permanent, the question that no amount of capital can resolve, is simply this. Was it worth it? Not the money, not the power, not the freedom you thought you were buying with every ascending level. Was the version of you that arrived here, the one without sleep, without trust, without empathy, without taste, without the capacity to be known or surprised or genuinely touched, was that version worth the one you started with? You know what makes this question unbearable. It is not that the answer is no. You could survive no. You could grieve no and carry no and build something from the wreckage of no. What makes it unbearable is that you genuinely cannot remember the version you started with clearly enough to compare. The original is gone. The original was the price, and the receipt has been lost. All that remains is the number on the screen, and the number, as always,